Yeah.
So all I can say is you guys are a blessing. You're tremendous. Thank you. I sound like Donald Trump. You're really, really tremendous. You're amazing people. You're the best podcast listeners that we've ever had in the world. And I mean, in the history of podcast listeners, y'all are fantastic. Y'all are the best. You're really big. You're bigly. And just, I love the podcast listeners. They're terrific.
We really mean it, though.
Terrific podcast listeners. So, yeah, I think that it's just a blessing. And what it tells me, though, and I had this conversation today, is what it tells me is that we were being throttled by social media for a lot longer than we thought in terms of getting things out there on Facebook and YouTube and that kind of stuff. They were really pulling back the reins on what we were able to promote and push out there. We've seen that. We knew that. In fact, I thought that, quite honestly, our days of Facebook videos and putting those out there, trying to entertain with Facebook, I thought those days were over.
Yeah, and that was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know, Jade, I think this is the end. And I was like, oh no, you'll hustle and figure something out. But this has made a huge difference. So you've made us very happy. You've made Chad very happy. So if you could just keep doing that, that'd be great.
I'm a brand new man. I have been reborn. No, what is that on Old School where he comes out of the when Luke Wilson comes out of the Jello pudding or whatever where they're having the oil wrestling and he comes out, he's all oiled up and he goes, I have been reborn. That was way too much to tell that story. Old School, I haven't seen it in a long time, funny movie. Anyway, but no, it's been a blessing. I was sitting under my desk in the office, in a fetal position, rocking back and forth, sucking my thumb, humming Jesus Loves Me, and I was like, this is over, my career is over. And
you said that was because I left you home with the kids.
That was 2 weeks ago. Then I had, but and another shout out. I gotta give credit where it's due. The folks over at CRTV, my friends at CRTV called me up and we were just in a conversation and talking about business and their business and my business and I said, man, I really need a show page on Facebook, and they said, well, just take one of ours. And I mean, just they
like blessed us.
They just blessed us with the Facebook watch page. So now we have the Watch Chad Prather Facebook page, which in the last just 5 weeks has grown to 950,000 followers in 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's nuts. So it gave us a renewed ability to put videos out there. We've seen about 85 million views on the watch page in the last 5. So these are big, big numbers that even I still, after all these years of doing this, I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend numbers that size.
No.
And so when I was sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning and I pull up the iTunes rankings, because I was studying an article on podcasts, and it sent me accidentally to this link about rankings, and I was just thumbing through, and boom, there we were, sitting there currently at 53.
Right.
We had debuted at 24 and we're sitting there at 53. And I was like, wow. And that, you know what? We can't take any credit for that. No. You can. You can. I can't do it.
I know that he was so excited about it this morning that he decided to wake me up 45 minutes before my alarm went off to tell me about it.
It was early, but I was up all night. I think I'd slept about 40 minutes by the time, and I was shaking, and I was like, hey, look at this. Check this out.
Well, I rolled over, and he was like, hey, are you awake? I said, well, I am now. And he was like, well, I've got something to tell you.
And then I read this article from this guy who was like, why being ranked on iTunes is not that big of a deal. And so he goes through this big thing. And then he was like, and if you're like one of the podcast makers, producers who's never been ranked, of which I am one, I was like, see, you're a critic and you're a cynic because you've never been there. And I took a screenshot. I'm going to have it framed. I'm going to put it where the kids' pictures used to hang in the house. But here's what that means. Here's what that means from a grassroots level, and I have to also give credit to Podcast One. I could not do it without them, because yes, Heath and I did the podcast and we did well with it, but Heath's still doing well with it. But if we didn't have the production power and the cross promotion ability of Podcast One, who is just huge, then it would have been bad. We would have just been out there floundering around. So I got to say thank you to those guys. Thank you to the guys that work hard to put this thing out. And we run our mouths, send it over to them. They do the heavy lifting. But it's a blessing. And, talking about the kids, let's go back to, I want to get into this. Our guest today, and I love this guy. I've fallen in love with him. I met him last, I think, October at a foundation, at a benefit, golf benefit for a foundation out in L.A., mm-hmm. And which you say L.A., there's all these cities surrounding L.A., and it was like a celebrity golf tournament foundation. And I sat at the dinner table with a couple of guys I was honored to sit with. All those guys have become my friends. One was Aubrey Huff. I'll see him this weekend at my show in San Diego. He's coming to the show, two-time World Series champion with San Francisco Giants. Great guy. He lives in San Diego, so he's coming to the show, I think, Friday night. But there was a couple that was sitting just to my right there at the table, Butch and Julianne Hartman. And I know a lot of times you say these names and they just blow right past you, but let me tell you, you want to talk about influencers, and we get into this because Butch, let me just introduce Butch by talking. Let me ask you a question. Did you watch it? Because you grew up early. Like you were an adult like by the time you were 9.
I was quite responsible, but with a big death early in my life.
Yeah,
I did
15.
Grow up.
Yeah. But you grew up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And every time I say, well, you were doing this at 15. Yeah, and I had a full-time job.
That's right.
Yeah, I walked to it.
I did have a job at 15, but it wasn't full-time.
So did you spend a lot of time watching cartoons?
Yeah, I did when I was little. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cartoons shaped my life.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. Whether it was comic books or cartoons. And we get into this in the episode, and I tell a little bit of my story. But people always want to ask me, they were like, how do you know these things about these different things? And I can just tell you, it's because I watch so much television.
Yeah.
You know, people you say, well, television will rot your brain. No, television actually made me really smart. I watched it, and cartoons were one of them. Mm-hmm. And the evolution of cartoons throughout the years. So did you have a favorite?
I did. I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about Butch. You know, what were some of my favorite ones? I can remember watching the Jetsons in the morning, and I can remember being a huge fan of She-Ra, Princess of Power.
Come on now. Was
yeah.
that like a He-Man knockoff?
No, it was like She-Ra, Princess of Power.
But I mean, you had He-Man, and so the chicks had to be strong too?
Yeah, so she might have been like his girlfriend, I don't know, but I remember thinking that maybe she was back then. And of course, I liked the Care Bears.
She looked good in that brass bra, is what she looked good in.
Well, that's not how I felt back then.
Yeah.
I felt like she could kick your butt.
she could. They could literally draw her kicking my butt.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Care Bears, huh?
Well, yeah, everybody was a fan of the Care Bears.
Let's don't push it too hard on the everybody thing. Did you own them? Yeah, did you own the Care Bears?
I had to have a Care Bear. I had the
those weren't
Sunshine Bear.
They weren't scented or anything. That's strawberry shortcake, wasn't it?
Oh, I had some strawberry shortcake. Absolutely. Yeah. They smell so good.
I had a history with strawberry shortcake because I used to sell them on eBay. Back when eBay came out, I'd buy the old vintage strawberry shortcake. So back in the aughts, back in the 2000s, the mid-2000s, I sold a lot of strawberry shortcake.
And you've told me that before, and I still think it's just as weird now as I thought it was then.
I made a lot of money when the economy was good before the recession. I made a lot of money off strawberry shortcake on eBay. It was weird. You can see me in there cleaning up, little purple pie man, with the little alcohol wipes.
Yeah,
I felt
weird.
like that toy maker in Toy Story, in Toy Story 2.
Uh-huh.
So, can you name the Jetsons? Can you name the characters?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, you had George Jetson.
Yes.
You had his wife, who was Judy, and then you had the son, and that's in the theme song. His boy. Elroy.
Oh yeah.
And
gosh, it's been a long
daughter,
time.
What was the daughter's name? I'm gonna have to look her up. And then the boss was Mr. Spacely.
What was the dog?
The dog was Astro.
Astro. What was the maid?
The maid was it Pill?
I bet you guys will let us know.
You know who would know is our guest today. And our guest, Butch Hartman, he went out, and he's going to tell his story, but if your kids have ever watched anything on Nickelodeon, I'm telling you, they've seen Butch Hartman. He created The Fairly Odd Parents. He created Danny Phantom. He created Tough Puppy. I am a fan of Tough Puppy, who is just this, reminds you of me, just this guy this dog who just kind of is goofy and just accidentally falls into, he becomes this like secret agent dog, and he's like a goofy, and he like just falls into success. And so I love Tough Puppy, but I loved sitting down talking with him because there are people who are listening to this who are going, I don't care about cartoons. I'm an adult. No. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story. Butch is going to tell you a story about success, chasing your dreams, taking it to the next level. How do you chase the impossible? Because here's a guy from Michigan who winds up in Hollywood, and the vision he has for the future and the thing that they're building, he and his wife, Julianne, they're building an incredible new project it's family focused. It is I'm putting a word in their mouth that I don't think they'd mind. It's faith-based because they're people of faith, and they're just good quality people. I'm happy that, sometimes I pull up my phone and I see people that I can send a text message to, and I'm thankful to say that I can send a text message to Butch Hartman at any time, and he's a friend. And thank God for this thing called social media and podcasting, who you just connect all these people that you never in a million years thought you would have met. So I'm a fan of the comics. I'm a fan of the cartoons. If you've ever watched Family Guy, the proctologist Elmer Hartman is named after Butch Hartman because he and Seth MacFarlane, good friends. You're going to hear that story as well. It's a lot of fun. So we want to get into this thing?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're drinking our Black Rifle coffee.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. Find me on tour, watchchad.com. Hang on through the break. When we come back, I'm sitting down in the Podcast One studios out in Beverly Hills with my good buddy and his wife, Mr. Butch Hartman. Hang on. Love y'all.